From Little League to the big leagues and everywhere in between. From one stage to another. Passion is my middle name. I'm J.J. Davis. This is In Focus. The TV business has changed over the years, at least since yours truly and his fat face graced the screen. I don't know about graced. Some have adjusted and some have not. Well, I know a guy who has. He's the award-winning sportscaster at the top station in Lincoln, Nebraska. So sitting next to me on the anchor desk is Kevin Sjuts from KOLN. It has been a while.
So good to see you, JJ.
Why? I'm old.
No, it's great to see you. I mean, we've had a lot of Valentino's pizza together, standing up in the sixth floor at Memorial Stadium.
That's right. All right,
many coaches ago.
I got to ask you about your name. Of course, I really didn't know how to pronounce it, and you had to tell me. It's S-J-U-T-S. Pronounce Sjuts.
Yeah.
The origin.
German. My grandfather came over here when he was 13 years old from Germany.
And the rest is history.
And the rest is history. My father spoke German growing up in the household.
Did you learn any?
Oh, yeah. I took it in high school, and plus I knew a little bit from my parents. Just speaking it like I think when they wanted the kids to not know what they were saying, they would go into German and chitter chatter in that.
How many times have we heard that before?
I know, right?
Do you still know any German? Can you remember any of it now?
Ja, ich spreche Deutsch.
It's pretty impressive.
A little bit, just a little bit.
All right.
And since you asked about my name, you know, a couple generations before my father, there was a tradition. If your last name ended in S, you would drop the S and that's your first name. So my great-grandfather's name is Sjuts. First name spelled S-J-U-T.
That's incredible.
Is that wild?
That's really wild. To me, though, what's even wilder is the fact that you work, I believe, in my experience, in one of the most passionate states when it comes to college athletics. And you work right in the heart of Huskerdom, Lincoln. How do you survive?
Well, it's fun. That's how you survive. Because there's so much going on. And everybody cares. That's the thing that, you know, your question is, how do you survive? Well, you're doing something every day that people care about. You know, if you're just screaming into the loud abyss, the void, then it's going to wear on you. But I feel energized every day. And I feel an obligation too because people care.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've always said that I think it's a privilege to cover Nebraska. And I've always felt that other media guys and girls felt like it was their right. What say you?
I'm owed nothing, you know. It isn't a privilege. You know, I don't feel like I'm on top of the mountaintop.
I'm honored.
Yeah, no, there's an obligation.
Correct.
Like I take my job pretty seriously. And every night I want to share with our viewers.
Right.
And, you know, we're based in Lincoln,
Correct.
Channel 1011, but the span across Nebraska in which we reach our viewers.
Right.
I mean, there are some counties in South Dakota that can watch 1011. There are counties in northern Kansas that can reach 1011. And I've even fielded phone calls from our viewers that one gentleman, I'll never forget this, about 10 years ago, he said, "Man, I love watching you." I said, "Where are you at?" He goes, "Well, I'm about 20 to 30 miles east of Denver."
Wow.
Like,
Man.
we reach way west.
Wow.
And even in western Nebraska, the signal can pick up 1011. So it's KOLN/KGIN, so our signal out of Grand Island.
As I like to say, and the rest of the world. Now, you grew up right down the street, so to speak, just outside of Ogden, Illinois, as you were telling me. I mean, Ogden, it's a village, under 1,000 people.
Oh, yeah.
What was that like growing up in Illinois as a young Kevin Sjuts?
Well, I grew up in a town of 300 people.
Oh, my gosh.
Royal, Illinois.
Oh, my
And so
gosh.
my high school was St. Joseph Ogden.
That's
it's
right.
a consolidation.
The Spartans, baby.
There you go. You know, you've done your homework here. Great athletic school, by the way. football, basketball, baseball, track and field, cross country. Like St. Joe Ogden is pretty good at that.
And you ran track, you played baseball and basketball. What was your favorite sport?
I'll correct you. I played football and baseball.
Well, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was going to ask you, why not football?
Don't put, no, I played for a legendary coach, Dick Duval. Never won a state championship, made it to the finals 4 times, including my junior year.
What position?
I played quarterback.
Why am I not surprised? He played quarterback.
The team we lost to in the state finals in 1997, we got them in the playoffs the following year. My senior year, 98, at their place. They hadn't lost at home in 40, 50 games, and we got them.
Isn't that the way it works, Kevin? You remember your losses more than your victories, I think, in some cases.
Yeah, we got hosed in our loss in the state championship game. There was a fumble inside the 10. They said he was down. No, the ball came out. We remember that stuff. As a sports guy, you always...
Oh, man.
You know, those moments. And my wife, as much as she played collegiately and all through her life in volleyball, it's all a blur to her. And it just doesn't compute with me.
Right.
It's like, how don't you remember the teammates, the coaches, the moments, the games, the outcomes? Right. You know, I can spit out like hey, remember in 04 or whatever. She looks at me like, how do you remember that?
Now, you talk about spitting out. Does the name Miss Schmidt mean anything to you? English?
There's a couple Miss Schmidt.
English teacher.
Yeah,
Miss
8th grade.
Helping verbs.
Be as am are was were being been have as had do does did could would should may might must can will.
Now, he said he once was quoted as saying, I can spit out those 22 helping verbs in 10 seconds, and I believe...
Was that under 10?
I believe you just
did. Put the clock on me. I think I got it.
How do you remember that stuff, and what did Miss Schmidt and others that have guided you along the way, how did that...
You know, kids, pay attention at school. You never know when you're going to be sitting across from J.J. Davis at 43 years old and being asked about the 22 helping verbs. Well, you know what? In retrospect, though, especially for the industry in which I, have been in for 20 years. Have
gravitated to.
Yeah. You got to be able to write.
Yeah.
So, English class, knowing grammar, it has served me well.
It has served
in being able to write, being able to, compose my scripts in which I deliver to the viewers every single night. It goes all the way back to Prairie View Junior High.
He is so polished. He is so polished. So what'd you learn at Illinois? Graduated 2003, journalism, etc. What'd you learn there?
My mind goes straight to the things I didn't do in the classroom and all the other stuff.
We all think of that.
I learned that intramurals are a lot of fun. if you don't want to play college athletics, intramurals is a fantastic secondary
because then
option.
You're the stud. I played quarterback in high school football. I'll be pretty good at this, right?
Well, I mean, sometimes it's okay to have a social life and just kind of peel off the athletic thing. What did I learn at the University of Illinois? How to balance my time correctly and how to...
As a college kid, you learned how to balance your time.
Yes,
Come on.
To I guess, kind of zone in on what I mean by that. How to prioritize certain things.
Right.
Because there's a lot going on, especially in those ages between 18 and 22, 23. You've got social temptations, you have academic obligations, you got your family obligations.
I'll tell you what, you're just blowing my mind. I can tell you done growed up. You done growed up since I last saw you.
Sure. I've also got 3 kids. You got to learn what you want to teach them.
All right.
And looking back at my life, you learned how to what's the main thing? Take care of the main thing.
And as you get older, you get wiser. You come to truth with certain things. So you graduate 2003. 2004, he ends up in Lincoln, Nebraska. How'd that happen?
Got a phone call for a job opportunity in Lincoln. I didn't know anything about Lincoln, Cornhuskers, outside of what I knew from a video game and occasionally watching Tom Osborne's Huskers. Honestly, growing up, Nebraska just won all the time. Those 90s. Everybody here, that's the heyday. They have such fond memories. Nebraska got under my skin because they won all the time.
Well, I grew up, I'm a little bit older. I grew up watching many a Big 8 championship game on Thanksgiving Day from Memorial Stadium, whether it be in Illinois or at Nebraska. So I kind of knew about the Huskers, kind of just like you did.
From the outside.
Yes.
But you don't know about the Huskers.
So you go there, you're not even at the station you're at now.
No, yeah, I started as a part-time employee at KLKN. And at that point, you know, the industry is a little bit different now.
Yes.
Job placement's a little bit
Yes,
easier now
yes.
than in 2004. I was always told by a college professor you could send out 100 resume tapes.
That's right, he's right.
And out of 100, you hope to get
One
callback.
That's exactly right.
And I got a few, and I got a job offer in a place I was unfamiliar with, in a part-time position. I said, I'll be there.
I tell people that all the time. It's got to be your passion. You got to be willing to go anywhere. I drove 2,700 miles in less than 2 days from Baltimore to Spokane, Washington. You did the same. I admire that. So you get to Lincoln. What do you say to yourself?
Learn, enjoy it, and learn. Like, that was my number one. I didn't know. I had no idea.
Nobody did. No, but
Staying in Lincoln was going to be my career path. I had no idea that I'd fall in love with the town, the people of Nebraska. I had no idea that I'd fall in love with somebody in the same town.
Yeah,
which
that's
I'm sure
another
we'll get.
story. So did you have an idea that a year later you'd move cross town?
No.
What happened?
Job opened up. You know, again, I was part-time.
Right.
In that 9-month window in which I was at KLKN, I worked for a sports director by the name of John Wooford, who is still one of my mentors and great friends.
Remember John?
And he taught me everything. I would go in early to work. I'd try to beat him to the office.
Memories. Brings back memories.
And JJ, I would make my rundown. So I would try to decide if I was anchoring the sports that day as a part-timer, what would I try to deliver to the viewers?
Right. It's passion, baby.
So I would put that in place, and then I would just kind of keep it off on the side. John would do his thing, and then I'd compare notes. Say, why'd you do that? And so I was learning, and that was my number one objective.
I identify with that, man. So now you're the sports director. What? You've been voted Sportscaster of the Year twice, a couple of times, Best Sportscast, a trio of times. But it's for love of the game.
Yeah, I don't care about the awards, really. I just want the people of Nebraska that get 10-11, that watch 10-11, to feel fulfilled.
I'm telling you.
That they were informed of the day's news, and hopefully somewhere in the middle there, we can entertain them a little bit.
All right, we're going to entertain them. Close this out right now. How you met your wife. We all knew about it in all the various media circles. It is a great story. You've got 50 seconds.
My wife played volleyball at Nebraska. When they do the starting introductions, they throw the balls to the crowd.
Correct.
One day, she rolls a volleyball in my direction. I pick it up. I think, hey, that's cool. I look at it. There's her phone number. I called her that night. She turned me down to go out that night. But a couple weeks later, we went on our first date. We fell in love on her senior night at the University of Nebraska when they recognized the seniors. Michelle Lynch. I walked my stupid butt onto the court at the NU Coliseum,
right.
Rolled a ball back to her, got down on a knee, said, will you marry me?
Oh, my gosh.
We've been happily married
and
since
the
2006.
rest, as they say, is history. He's got 3 kids. Quickly, if anyone would have told you that you would spend your entire career up to this point in one place, because I know I didn't, what would you say?
I wouldn't believe it, but I say, man, you must be having a lot of fun. And I am.
You're killing me, Smalls. I mean, this guy is everything I thought you were, and then some. What about the future?
Just keep working hard, keep doing what the people want. And have to have a little bit of fun, too. Man, I'd really like it if Nebraska would get to some better bowl games.
Well, we all would. And since I've been out of it, there's a part of me that's like, well, good. Since I've been gone, they haven't gone anywhere. Because I'm used to them going to the national championship when I was growing up. But
I got a little too used of having family time around the holidays.
We were spoiled. We're spoiled. Listen, from the bottom of my heart, I've been spoiled. You came up today, and I want to appreciate it very much. That's my guy, Kevin Sjuts, coming up. Another special K. He lives in a barn, but up in the loft when we come back. The Omaha Choice Awards has voted this theater #1 2 years in a row. Now, I always call it the little theater that could. Well, out of the barn, and into the spotlight, taking center stage, is the Lofte Community Theater's artistic director, Kevin Colbert. 2 years in a row, Kevin.
I know.
Pretty impressive.
Go figure. Out of the metro area, down there in the middle of a cornfield. Who knew? I think we just got a lot of people to vote is what it was.
Well, I think that could partially be true, but I've also, full disclosure, have worked at that theater. You deserve it.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, yeah, obviously a big surprise. I mean, I know there's powerhouse theater here in the metro area. There is no doubt about it. And for those people to make a drive out of the city down to where we are, we're very pleased. But our audiences have always been able to come out of Omaha, Lincoln. We're halfway between both. So we're lucky that they make that drive.
This theater in Manley, Nebraska, 25 miles south of Omaha. You started way back when, 1977?
1977, that's right. Our English teacher at Weeping Water at the time, she went down to see a show in Brownville. She saw Godspell, and she came away with that going, you know what, we could do something like that. And so she set out to look for a place, hopefully a little storefront, maybe in one of the small towns or an abandoned church. Couldn't find anything. Right. Talked to a couple of neighbors, and it was my dad, I think, who steered her to the location that we were at for 30 years.
The original location. Tell everybody about the original location.
1923 Hog Barn, as a matter of fact. His name was Howard Rathie. He had some machinery stored in there. The animals were no longer in there, but Diane talked to him about it, and he was adamantly against it. No way. Well, his wife and daughter talked him into it, and once he became on board, he was a juggernaut. He was our first chairman of the board. He took that barn. They spent an entire summer cleaning it out, getting rid of whatever 50 years of hogs leave behind, and put in electricity, running water, and in August of 1977, we put on our own production of Godspell.
My gosh.
It's just like the Mickey Rooney,
just like we see in movies.
Yeah, absolutely. We had coffee cans with lights in them. We borrowed chairs from the local funeral home and set those up and did Godspell. Did another melodrama after that. With no heating and air, it was time to be done, and so the decision was, well, what do we do? Do we do another season, or do we give Howard back his barn, which is now clean?
1985, you say, you know what? I'm taking over this show.
You
become the artistic director.
I did. Yeah.
40 years?
Yeah, 40 years. Yes. I fell into a tub of butter, really. The gal who, Diane Bjornberg-Reese, whose this whole idea was, got married, and she and
that's how it works.
Yeah. She and Bill moved to the north. She was a teacher as well, and I said, "Let me give it a shot," And she taught me a lot. She taught me everything I knew, and went to university.
Right.
Went to UNL. Took the 101 classes, never anything bigger, because I was in the teacher's college. I had to learn about the psychology of children, not how to design a set. So anything that I know through theater has been by doing for 40 years.
Graduate from Weeping Water High School, 1975,
Did.
Nebraska, Lincoln, as you said, and you're going to teach what? English, speech, and drama. Did you teach?
I did. 4 years. 3 years at Tecumseh, and I must say I had a great time. It was a great school system. I really enjoyed it. And then I thought the grass was going to be greener on the other side. Gretna had a job that came open.
I've been there before.
Yeah. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot there at Gretna. The difference between the kids at Gretna and the kids in Tecumseh was totally different. Nothing against either one of them, but it was totally different. But my saving grace was my bride and I decided to get married, and it was, you know what, that's enough teaching. Betty wanted to go back to grad school, and so.
But you were a farm kid. In fact, you grew up just miles from where the loft presently is located. What was it like growing up as a farm kid?
Oh, it was one of those things where, I could go to play practice, and I could go to football practice and go to the games, but first, as soon as school was over, get your chores done.
And they were?
Yeah, and get the cows in, because my dad milked, Yep. Make sure that the hay was down, bring them in from the pasture. Mostly it was the milk cows. We didn't have any other animals.
Could you do it right now?
No. And would I want to? No. But I'll tell you what, those cows got 3 of us through college.
Yeah.
You know, and bless his heart that Dad stayed with that for as long as he did, because when college was done, or we all were out of college, that was it for him. He was done with them as well.
So how did you go from the barn and cows to theater?
Well, my first introduction to the stage, we had grade school in Manly, Nebraska, which is a stone's throw from where the loft is located,
right.
Correct. Town of 150. Right. So that's where I went to grade school. I had a two-room schoolhouse. And I remember the elementary program, they built a stage in the basement and they hung up pig lights or whatever. I don't know. I can't remember. But all I do remember is those lights shining on me and me dressed in my cardinal, I was a bird outfit and a tree. And there was something about that feeling and being on stage that from that moment I went, you know what, this is good. I like this kind of feeling. And so tried to be the center of attention and as much as
that's a surprise.
Yeah. And then I got lucky in high school and got some.
But Weeping Water, I looked it up, 2020 census, a town of 1,000, just over 1,000 people. Mm-hmm. How did you overcome that to want to get onto the stage and be the center of attention?
Well, coming from the grade school, you know, you graduate 8th grade, and so then you go to high school, one of the high schools around Louisville or Weeping Water or whatever. My mom was an educator. She taught years and years and years at Weeping Water, and so that's where all of us kids went. But it was one of those things that once I learned the kids in my grade and knew who I was, and the teacher came in and was like, okay, I can try out for these one-act plays. I can do this. And all it did was feed my ego. And
was there a moment that you remember and you went, that's it, not just that first moment?
You know, I don't think so. I think that once I knew that that's something that I really enjoyed and wanted to do, right. Whenever there was an opportunity, whether it was a one act or the play. I mean, we didn't have a lot in Weeping Water. You had the one act, you had maybe a spring play and maybe a fall play, that kind of thing, and a musical. Mm-hmm. We did a musical every year at the school. It was class plays. They had gone away from the junior-senior play to an all-school play, and so that was good because I could start as a freshman. But the more I did it, the more you had to feed the beast. You know?
The more the barn grew to presently where it is now.
Yeah.
How did that all come about?
Well, not knowing what was going to happen, I mean, we kept at it out there and the doors kept open and we could seat in the first barn 284 people. And I think up until the point that we left, our average was about 240 is what we set in the theater. But they would come and continue to come with no heat, no air conditioning. We'd be out there on a summer night with the humidity at 100 degrees in wool suits doing Fiddler on the Roof.
Judy Garland, Mickey Rooney, I remember in those movies.
Oh my God, and they continued to come and sit and watch the shows there. But a lot of people told us, you know, this reminds me of when I was a kid driving to the farm, my grandparents' farm, when I was young. We had people telling us, we don't tell anyone else you're here because you're our little secret. I'm like, well, you can tell a few people that were around. So
well, as you always know, I call the Lofte Community Theater a jewel in southeast Nebraska. You've been the artistic director since 1985, and it has been a family affair. Yeah. His mother started in the ticket office in 1977.
Yeah, she did, and she is still in the ticket office today. 93 years young, or will be this year, and she's out there every day. Loves it. She knows everybody in the audience. She knows more people that are sitting in the audience than I'll ever know.
And your wife Betty's in the front of the house. Yeah. She's also performed on stage. It is truly one big community happy family.
Yeah, my Betty, my wife, was my music director for 35 years, and she and I were a musical team, and we had another gal who did our choreography, and it was always fun to work together. But without her and without Betty doing what she did for musicals and what she did for me, I would never have been able to be.
Now, I've always said that he's, quote unquote, the best actor in the room. Yeah. What do you prefer, directing, performing?
You know, that's a tough question.
Oh my gosh.
And I would probably have said performing, but did some things recently that I'm very proud of directing-wise, and I thought, you know what? I'm getting the hang of this after 40 years.
After 40 years.
Yeah, I'm beginning to understand just a little more. But I got to be on stage this last year as well. And yes, I'm one of those that I will direct and be on stage as well. And I know.
And he's not afraid to admit it, but that's fine.
I don't want to hear it. You know, I mean, I'm capable, and I can see the pictures, I can see the sight lines, I can see the composition, I understand it, I know what it takes. But I was on stage this year. I did Escanaba in the Moonlight, and God, I had a great time with that, and it was so much fun to be on
I
stage.
tell people when they ask you or look at me, why do you do theater? I tell them time and time again, I can't explain it. It is just something that's in you. And once you're done with the show, a couple of weeks later perhaps, it starts all over again.
Yeah, it does. You know, my favorite part of theater when I direct is at the end of performances, when the cast is up there and the families and friends wait, and then they go and greet each other, the hugs, the validation for a job well done. That has always been the most satisfying part for me, is when families and friends of cast members go and they have that moment afterwards.
It's interesting that you say that, because I've had coaches tell me that about their players, like after big games. Yeah. It's the joy that they see on the kids' faces. That's what brings them the most joy. Now, what do you think if I approached everybody in Manly or the surrounding area? What would they say about Kevin Colbert?
Oh, God.
Oh, my.
That idiot? I don't know. You know, you often think about your legacy, what people will say. But I hope that they would say that, as far as the theater is concerned, that I treated everybody fairly and kindly, and that they thought that the work that they did with me was valid and enjoyable, and that I'm proud of the business that is still open despite everything.
Everything.
You know? Yeah,
That's right.
And who can make it in the middle of a cornfield in Nebraska? But the doors are open, so I'm proud of that. But I guess I would hope that they would say, you know, good on him. He was able to keep the doors open of a theater here.
And for the record, outside the cornfield, he worked for years at Mahoney State Park, et cetera, et cetera. So this guy's definitely earned his chops in various places. So in the end, we're not done.
Yeah.
How many years you got left?
Good question. Betty asked me that constantly, even coming up here. She said, "No, here's someone who could take your job."
No.
And you know, I'm going to be ready to retire. That's going to happen, because I can only go so long. But I don't know how to step away.
For love of the game. For love of the game.
I'm going to have to keep my hands in there. I'm going to have to keep involved somehow with the theater, because you don't build a business and just turn it over. I mean, if somebody wants to come in and turn it into a, you know, grocery store.
No, they
that's
can't.
Not gonna
They
happen.
can't. They
You know, I don't
can't.
want that
No,
to
they
happen.
can't. They
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah. So I don't know. You know, it's. I know people who have directed and acted and until they just dropped.
Well, for my money, you've got to keep going. So I want to thank you for coming in.
Oh.
I knew he was a farm kid, even with the snow we've had. I knew he could make it, no problem.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you,
Well,
Kevin.
my wife drove.
From the bottom of my heart, Kevin Colbert from the Lofte Community Theater. And so we've had a couple of special Ks on today. And as always, I'd like to say I'm J.J. Davis for In Focus, and I'll see you around town.